Okay, we have General Manager Brian MacLellan here. Reminder, if you haven't been on one of our calls before, please utilize the raise hand function. If you have a question, we'll go ahead and start with Samantha Pell at the Washington Post. Go ahead and start us off, Sam.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good, Sam. How you doing?
Doing good. Just wanted to get your obviously initial thoughts on the biggest trade today with Mantha and just kind of why you made that trade, how long you're kind of looking at him as a player, and what you guys gave up in exchange for him.
Yeah, I mean, we really liked Anthony for quite a while now. I like a lot of the attributes, the size, the skill, the shot, the scoring ability. He's a really good skater for his size. I think it's a player that we've liked and talked about a lot in our room, and we had a chance to acquire him, so we went out and got him.
We'll go next to Tarek El-Bashir with The Athletic.
Brian, how hard was it to part with Jacob Verano?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good young player, Tarek. I mean, we won a cup. He was a part of it. He's a nice person, highly skilled, great speed. And I think part of it was, I think Jacob's a little frustrated with, where he's at here within the organization, probably wants a little more ice time, wants more responsibility. And there's a tug and war between, coaching staff and staffs that have had him and the way he was playing. So I think we had a frustrated player. And so we try to move on from that.
Was there also maybe some consideration when you look ahead to the upcoming negotiation for his next contract?
Yeah, definitely. I think, he's an RFA. He's got arbitration rights. He's got some good numbers, projecting that salary. We'd get some cost certainty with Mantha, so we know what his contract is. That played a factor in it, yes.
Thank you.
Go next to Stephen Wino with the Associated Press.
Hey, Brian. Obviously, you guys probably would have made this move and the Michael Raffl trade as well. But when you see Boston go get Taylor Hall, you see the Islanders go and get Zajac and Palmieri, you see Pittsburgh get Jeff Carter. What was the pressure like knowing that these are the three teams you're going to be contending with, guaranteed for the first two rounds of the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm not sure we looked at it like that. I mean, I think, we're independent and we're trying to make our team better. I mean, if there was nothing there that we thought that we could improve our team, we wouldn't have tried. We tried on a couple things. We had a Mantha conversation with Detroit, a couple of weeks ago, and continued to talk about them along the way, and it came to fruition today. I don't think we'd make a decision or based on what other teams are doing. I think teams are trying to do what's best for their team and trying to make their team better to compete in the playoffs here and win a Stanley Cup.
How do these trades make your team better, in your opinion?
I think it's a good fit, Mantha, with us. I think Raffl gives us depth and versatility on the bottom six. I think an overall balance of our team looks better, in my opinion.
We'll go next to Scott Abraham with ABC 7.
Hey, Brian, good to see you as always. You look at Mantha, he's a big body, 6'5", 230. That type of presence in the lineup, adding some physicality, playoff type player, you need that big body, that physicality. What can he bring in terms of that physicality in a playoff environment type deal?
Yeah, I think the physicality he brings is strength on the puck. I mean, he's a long player, he uses a long stick. He has a good shot. I think the size factor more translates to skill than a physical running over people. And I think he had that in him. He's a big, strong guy that plays a big game, that can play a big game, and uses his size and strength and length to his advantage. I think it's an effective style on the ice.
And I know Verano was well-liked inside that locker room already. Guys are wishing him well on social media. Good luck in Detroit. Any concern about team chemistry, losing a guy that was part of a cup team and adding a couple of new faces?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always concerned. I think the two guys we got coming in are really good people. I think we've done our homework on the back end and got a good sense of their personalities and how they fit into their current teams. And I think it'll be a seamless transition for both of them. Both of them have really good reputations.
We'll go to JJ Reagan with NBC Sports Washington.
Hey, Brian. No moves for goalie. Just what are your confidence right now in your young tandem? And was that a position that you looked at the deadline?
Yeah, I think we looked at it. I think both of our guys have played well and are progressing. I think, Vitek's been pretty solid. Samsonov's improving and coming along. So it's tough to bring in a guy and throw him in front of him. And we have Anderson as on the taxi squad, and we have Copley in Hershey. So I think we feel confident about our goaltending depth and the progress our two young guys are making right now.
And Raffle, is he someone that you could see playing center if needed?
Yes, I think we like his versatility. He can play left wing, he can play right wing, he can play center. He's a big body. He's strong. He can kill penalties. He's got a decent skill level. So we like the versatility of the addition of Raffle.
We'll go to Tom Galletti with NHL.com.
Brian, just to clarify, with Jacob, you mentioned, I don't know if the word was unhappy. Did he express that, and was there a request for a trade, or is that just something you observed and you felt like it needed to be addressed?
No, I'm not saying he asked for a trade. I just, I see a frustrated player, and I don't. Maybe he is or maybe he isn't, but the body language is frustrated, and I think we gave it some time and to see if we could work it out, and we moved on from it.
And just with your trade of Siegenthaler yesterday, did you feel comfortable with your defense depth? I think Peter said last night maybe Kempney could be part of that going forward. Is it?
Yeah, I think Kempney's got a few weeks ways to get to the point. We like Marty down in Hershey, and Ben Riemsdyk could play every day if we had.
Thank you.
Go to Ben Raby with Caps Radio.
And Brian, hoping to get two in here. A quick one first on Mantha. Big minutes in Detroit. Where do you see him fitting in here? Top six, third line, special teams? How do you see him being utilized?
I think, I think the coaches can move him around a little bit. I think he's going to have three good centers that he could play with. I think he'd benefit from a real good playmaking center like Kuzi or Nick. Also could play in the third line, get some power play time, really good net front presence, could be a goal line guy. I think there's, we're going to put him in offensive situations, and he's a smart player that can play with smart players. So, I think it's a good addition to our center iceman.
I'm wondering too, it's not often you see a player in year one of a 4-year deal get moved like that. In your research on him, any inkling why maybe it didn't work in Detroit and why this environment maybe he could benefit and hit another gear?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wouldn't have a definite answer on that. I think I think Detroit's a young team. They're building up their youth. He's the main guy. And there's probably a little pressure on him to produce. I think he comes here, he's just got to fit in. He's going to have, a veteran group of players. I think he's going to learn from the veterans. I think we got a good leadership group of older guys that have been around. We have a lot of guys that have won a cup. So I think it's just for him to come in and fit in and play well and relax and compete. And I think everything will work out.
Go to Alexander Gamble with NHL.com.
Hey, Brian. About Raffle, last year he did exceptionally well in the playoffs and moved up to first line temporarily. Was that a factor in going for him to get this experienced guy who can really step up in decisive situations?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about finding, one of our goals coming in the deadline was to finding a versatile forward that could play center if we needed it. We were a little concerned. I mean, we like our center ice position, but we wanted a guy that could play there if we needed it. In a depth situation, if we had an injury or if somebody was out for a few games, and I think he fits the bill there. He can play up and down a lineup. He's a good winger. He's big and strong and skate, like I said before, and I think he's a very useful player.
We'll go to Matt Paris with Washington Times.
Hi, Brian. You kind of always use the deadline as an attempt to kind of, swing big, go for the fences. I guess do you feel like that this was a similar move? I mean, was this the final piece to chase the cup, or how did you kind of decide on, okay, this is what we kind of need as a club?
Yeah, I mean, I think it fits. I think we're going to have 4 good lines. I think we're going to have size. I think we're going to have enough speed. I think we have good defensive depth. I think we're set up well to compete in the playoffs, and I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah, do you feel like you guys are playing your best hockey since you last won the cup in 2018, like this roster?
Yeah, I think we've been inconsistent. I think it's a tough year. I think, playing every second night, added pressures of what's going on, and not being able to go out, not being able to do things. I think it's a hard year, and there's inconsistencies that pop up. There's games that you're tired. There's, tough scheduled games. I think there's a lot of challenges this year, but I think, you look at that Boston game, I thought we played well. When we're on our game, I think we're a tough team to handle. We have a lot of elements that we can use and play, and we're a hard matchup for a lot of teams.
Thank you.
We'll go back to Samantha Pell at the Washington Post.
It's kind of just going off that you talk about inconsistencies kind of, I guess, this season with the team. In what area specifically do you think I guess the team needs to kind of shore up on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unique to our team. I think, all the teams are like that. I think the effort, the work effort, sometimes mentally, players might be a little tired or getting through things or injuries from playing every second day. It's a hard year to maintain a high level of play. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of teams grouped together. I mean, teams have periods where they're looking good, they have rest, and they're playing well, and then they have periods where they're working through things or getting through games. It's a hard schedule. It's compacted, and guys are playing hurt. I think that generates inconsistencies.
To kind of follow up, do you think that Mantha and Raffle will be available tomorrow night for you guys?
Mantha will, Raffle will not.
Thank you.
Go back to JJ Reagan with NBC Sports Washington.
Brian, I wanted to bring up Connor McMichael. He's playing well right now in Hershey. The OHL is in limbo right now. If they end up playing, is it your understanding that he would no longer be eligible to play in Hershey? And if that was the case, would you consider bringing him up to the taxi squad?
I think we'd prefer him in Hershey while he's playing. I mean, I think it's a perfect spot for him right now. He's playing top 6 minutes, playing power play. He's getting good experience against older players and playing pro. I mean, he's learning. He's getting better. The rules would dictate that if the OHL starts up, he would have to go back unless the team said, we're good, you can stay. The team would have to give us permission to keep him in Hershey. So if they start up and he goes back, we're okay with that.
We have time for a couple more. We'll go to Tom Galea with NHL.com.
Brian, including Panic in this trade, was this about a little bit about trying to move that contract to create some space as well?
Yes. I think, Richard came in. I think he's played well. I think he was a little frustrated with his role. He would like more ice time, a little more specialty team play, and it never seemed to click for him here. Had periods where he's played really well for us, and then had other periods where, I don't think he got, in his mind, enough ice time and opportunity. So I think it's, the trade for him gives him a chance to move up in a lineup and get more ice time. And I think it's going to be good for him to show his skill and opportunity to play a lot more than he would here.
And where do things stand? What can you say about where things stand with Alex Ovechkin and his contract situation? Is it still possible that's something to be done during the season, or does it look now like it might have to wait until after?
Yeah, I mean, it's status quo. We're both talking, and we'll work it out when we can work it out.
Go to Tarek El-Bashir with The Athletic.
Brian, was any part of today's move to get Mantha, was that, you mentioned the inconsistency, kind of a little of a wake-up call to the room to kind of, maybe inject some energy, change the dynamic, the vibe a little bit?
Not consciously, Tark. I think we came into the deadline trying to make our team better. How can we make it better? And so, you talk about a lot of players, a lot of opportunities, who's available. And then we just kind of go from there. It wasn't a conscious decision. Let's shake the team up.
Right.
I think we've had a good year so far. I think, we were positioned well going into the playoffs. And if we couldn't make a trade to make our team better or make it better, then we wouldn't have done it. I think, things lined up, and this is what we ended up doing today.
The internet says you have exactly $0 in cap space for the remainder of the season. Is that a little worrying that you're kind of, if there are other injuries or anything that pops up, you might be a tough spot?
Yeah, I think when the cap stays flat, you're always worried. And, we push it to the limit as much as we can. And, there is some concerns, but, our goal is to have the best team possible going into the playoffs. So I think we've been aggressive, and it could hinder a few games or a few performances, but I think in the long run, we're going to benefit from it.
And lastly, Mantha can play both sides, left and right?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have time for 2 more questions. We'll go to Andrew Gillis with NBC Sports Washington.
Hey, Brian, with scouting being what it is and what it isn't this year, and with the draft being just so different than it normally is, did you guys in the rest of the league, do you think value of draft picks was different than a typical year just because of the uncertainty that was there?
Yeah, I think you have 2 viewpoints on that, where some people would say they're less valuable because there's a lack of certainty of what you're getting into. And then another group would say that means there's opportunities that might not normally be there. I would probably think the markets might be a little inefficient this year because people don't have the depth of knowledge, and there might be opportunities to find a really good player with a later pick.
Last question will go to Ben Raby with Caps Radio.
Hey, Mac, non-trade deadline question here. Just want to ask you with Backstrom approaching 1,000 games on Thursday. Can you recall when he was drafted, coming up, early impressions of what the organization was landing?
Yeah, I think, I remember, the amateur scouts and, plenty of meetings of that draft. And our biggest desire was to come out of that draft with one of those centers. There were 3 centers there. And then I think it was Pittsburgh took Stahls 2, and then we knew we were going to get either, Taves or Backstrom. Fortunately, we got Backstrom. I think we were all excited that we were getting a first-line center, a guy that could run the power play, and, a guy that could play with Ovi for a long time. So I think the amateur scouts were, really pleased. George was pleased. The whole organization thought everything fell our way pretty well.
Real quick follow-up, or early memories from when he would have broken into the league 2 years later, and not sure if you could have maybe you did predict the career he's wound up having here, but
yeah, I think most of the scouts and George and personnel people here would have predicted it. I think, we knew we had an intelligent player. He's fun to watch. He was subtle on all the things he did. And the combination of him and Ovi, I think, excited everybody because, Ovi, they just fit together really well. Backstrom's playmaking ability and Ovi's obviously the shot and goal scoring ability. We just thought that combination, would benefit, the organization for a lot of years. And I thought it was evident early.